Let's talk about what's been going on in Minnesota with the Somalian community. Last week, Donald Trump insulted them on national TV. He called Somali immigrants garbage and said that he did not want them in the U.S. He said that Minnesota was being taken over by Somalian refugees and disparaged the community as harmful to the state. Now, this all started because of a fraud scheme or scam that happened in Minnesota. But what the news did not tell people is that the scam or the fraud was orchestrated by a white woman named Amy Bach. Now, Amy Bach and Salim Saeed took advantage of the COVID-19 pandemic to carry out a massive fraud scam that stole money meant to feed children. And this is being said by the acting U.S. Attorney Lisa D. Kirkpatrick. The defendants falsely claimed to have served 91 million meals for which they fraudulently received nearly $250 million in federal funds. That money did not go to feed kids. Instead, it was used to fund their lavish lifestyles. Today's verdict sends a message to the community that fraud against the government will not be tolerated. Now, that is very bad. But another fraud scam that went on during the pandemic was Brett Favre. If you don't know who Brett Favre is, he's a retired football player. He was quarterback. Brett Favre pulled a welfare scam too. What he did was, he's from Minnesota. The money that was meant for low income families through the Temporary Assistance for Needy Families TAMP program, a nonprofit tied to the state welfare program, it paid Brett Favre, his enterprise, about $1.1 million to speak at events that, according to auditors, never took place. But Favre was still paid. Despite no evidence he delivered the contracted appearance or speech, he was still paid. And he did all this because he wanted to build a state-of-the-art volleyball gym for his daughter at the University of Southern Mississippi. Now, Favre did pay some of the money back, but not all of it. But no criminal charges were filed against Brett Favre, only civil charges. But he's still being praised as one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. He's still a Hall of Famer. People still talk about him. They still laud him and praise him. But I don't see any black people coming out and trying to cancel Brett Favre for what he did. He did the same exact thing. But the difference is that it didn't make national headlines, and that was by design, because Brett Favre, they didn't want to tarnish his name the same way they didn't want to tarnish the name of this white woman, Amy Bach. They want everyone to think that it was just Somalians. Like, Somalians pulled this whole thing off. Yes, Somalis were involved, but it was orchestrated and it was created by Amy Bach, and no one's talking about that. Now, the issue is that an entire community is being demonized because of the actions of a few. And to make things worse, there are some black people going on social media saying that Somalians should be deported, even though about 90% of the Somalians who come to America come here illegally because they come here as refugees. Now, because a lot of Somalians in the US or UK, they often deny being black. That's not a reason for people to get mad and say that they should be deported. Like, that doesn't make sense. Somebody says that they're not black, or somebody insults you in a way that you don't like, so now you say that they shouldn't be in your country. That doesn't make sense. And when I hear that, I know the truth is what most Africans feel. They do not like being associated with black Americans. How do I know that? Somalis and other Africans who say that they are not black give the reason that the term black, it was created by the Europeans, or it's a European invention, which is true. But so is the classification or the identity of African. Like, Africans on the continent of Africa did not create the word African. Europeans created the word African, and they labeled black people from Africa as Africans. But no one says anything. Like, it's not an issue. No one is saying, hey, don't call me African. I'm Somali, or I'm Yoruba, I'm Igbo, or I'm Kikuyu, or, I'm Zulu. No, they're like, I'm African. But it's like, why is it that being called African is not an issue, but being called black is an issue. And I hear a lot of people saying like, oh well, it's derogatory. Black is a derogatory term. Well, so is African. Like African, if you go back even to today, if you listen to how people refer to African, they say the same thing. Look at during COVID, when a lot of Africans who were already living in China during that time, they were being, harassed, they were being discriminated against, and the Chinese were saying Africans are dirty, they're dirty people, get them out of China. And they were being attacked. It's not like they weren't saying black people, they were saying Africans, So why is it that Africans don't have any qualms about being called African, but they have qualms about being called, black? And, Africans, as I said, they were looked down upon in the past and even in the present. If you look at some of these old National Geographic videos, they'll depict the African as uncivilized and savage, but Africans still embrace the term African, no issues whatsoever. There's no screaming, there's no, hey, I'm not African, there's none of that stuff. But when I hear Somalis and other Africans saying that they're not black because the term black does not exist in Africa, I kind of like look sideways or like, shake my head, because the term African also does not exist, outside the continent of Africa, but you still identify as, African, or better yet, the term Somali or your tribe does not exist outside the continent of Africa, especially in America. If you tell somebody like I'm Somali or I'm Yoruba, I'm Igbo, they'll be like, what? Like, and I mean, if you tell a non-African, they'll be like, what? What's that? I don't know what that is. In America, the term black, not saying you're black American, but the term black is the race that identifies you as a person, as a black person. That is not, a white African or an Arab African. That's a term, that's the racial category that you fall under in the United States of America. And they know this. How do I know they know this? Because when it comes to, applying to school, they know how to, circle that bubble or check that classification as black. I don't know if, I'm sure they're still doing it now, but I remember before affirmative action was repealed and canceled, everyone was black. You even had Arabs that were calling themselves black because they knew it was beneficial. They knew, hey, if I circle black, I might get into this university, I might get into this medical school, I might get into this law school. It will increase my chances. I don't know about now, whether Arabs are still doing it, but they were doing it. And so were other Africans who, did not identify as black, according to what they're saying now. But yeah, when they're not going to university, they're not like, if you're North African, you're supposed to circle white or Caucasian, North Africans, Arabs, they fall under Caucasian. So when they're applying to school, they're supposed to circle or check the box that says Caucasian. If you're a black sub-Saharan African, or just a black, you don't have to be sub-Saharan. If you're a black African, meaning you're from Sudan, you're from, Ethiopia, you're from South Sudan, Djibouti, Chad, you're supposed to circle black because that's the race you fall under. Or if you're a black Egyptian, you circle black. But if you're not black, you're not supposed to be circling black. And they know that because it's very clear. It states it. But they do it because they think it's going to help improve their chances of getting into a good school. But ironically, you have many Somalis who will call themselves Arabs. But, where are the Arabs coming to their defense? And no Arabs have come to any Somali defense during this current turmoil that the Somalis are going through in Minnesota right now. Because right now they're on the, they're on the nation, it's a national, not event, but it's a national topic that people are talking about in the news, like this whole Somalian thing. Like, Are they taking over Minnesota and all that stuff? So where are the Arabs coming to their defense and being like, hey, those are our people, we need to protect them, or don't talk about Somalis like this, we need to protect them? I've seen one guy, he's a British Somali, and he was saying, we're not black because my skin is not even black, it's brown. But then he goes on to say, we're part of the Arab League. We speak Arabic, and we speak Arabic in Somalia. Our food is the same as Arabs. Our culture is the same as Arabs. We practice Islam. And it's like, okay, and so? Like, colonization did not exist. That's why you guys have the same names as people from North Africa and the Middle East. That's why you guys have the names Muhammad and, and Mustafa and Khalid and all that, because of colonization. Like, before that, you guys had your own Somalian names. I mean, you can even go to northern Nigeria or Chad or other West African countries where there's a strong Islamic presence. They have Arab names or Arabic names, but they also have their tribal names. Like, you have Hausa people who still have Hausa names. You have people from Guinea who are Muslim who still have Guinea names, or whatever their tribe may be. And then Fulani names, Fula names. So just because you eat Arab food and you speak Arabic and you practice the same religion does not make you the same as them. And he's like, we're part of the Arab League. So what? That doesn't mean anything. You have the Arab countries, the African countries in North Africa that have a predominantly Arab population, and they're part of both the Arab League and the African League. So that doesn't mean anything. It just means that I don't even know how the Somalis joined the Arab League, but yeah, being a part of the Arab League does not mean anything. Like, if anything, it means that maybe the Arab League was like, hey, we need more. It would make more sense to have more member countries so we can have maybe a stronger foothold in Africa, or, or maybe we can have when it comes to economics, we can have, more support. But Somalians being part of the Arab League does not mean anything. Does not make them Arab. Because if they were Arab, believe me, you would have Arabs coming to their defense. The same way you have Arabs, not all Arabs, but you have a lot of Arabs coming to the defense of the Palestinians. Because at the end of the day, they're like, hey, those are our people. Our people are being persecuted, and we need to come to their defense. Even look at what's happening in Sudan. Sudan, they speak Arabic. But what are they? They're black people. And because they're black, no Arab country is coming to their aid. Their neighbors, Egypt, the other North African countries, Morocco, Algeria, Libya, they're not coming to the Sudanese aid. But who comes to the aid of Sudanese? Other Africans, Kenyans, Ethiopians, Eritreans, Nigerians, people from Niger, people from Chad. Those are people coming to the aid of the Sudanese people, not the Arabs. So I think a lot of black Africans who don't look, phenotypically like other black Africans, just because their features might be a little softer or less pronounced, and their hair might be curly or straighter, doesn't make you any less black. You're still black, and the world will tell you, and the world will show you. And that's what's happening with the Somalian people. America is showing Somalians, hey, we don't care how you look, we don't care how straight your hair is, we don't care what language you speak. Some of you guys might speak Arabic, most of you guys speak Somali. We don't care. You're still black. And that's what's happening. They're getting their black wake-up call, and now they're confused because, look, you can go to India, or you can go to any country in southern Asia, and you can see people who are darker than me, people that are darker than most Africans. But everyone knows that those aren't black people, those are Indians. Now, what I don't like is, I don't like the idea of other black people black Americans, just other black people in general, co-signing what Donald Trump said, because what Donald Trump said was this blatant racism. And if other black people co-sign this, then it will give white people who are racist the green light to be racist to other black people too, or just Somalians, or Somalis, because they'll be like, yeah, well, if your own people are saying you guys are bad people, then it must be true because they're your own people. So I think a lot of black people need to stop this, this racist rhetoric or this anti-Somali rhetoric where they're being like, yeah, I've seen TikToks where they're like, yeah, the Somalians need to go. No, they don't need to go. They're here legally. And everyone, if you're here legally, you deserve a right to be here. Like, listen, welfare scams is nothing new. People have been doing it forever. Like forever. It's nothing new, and all communities do it. I'm not going to name all the communities that do it, but you guys can look it up. Welfare scams are nothing new. Go look it up. It's been done since welfare was a thing. So what the Somalians are doing is nothing new. But whenever I hear Africans say how united they are, I remember was it back in, was it August or September, when this whole boycott African braiding businesses and African businesses were going on, you would hear Africans, regardless of what country they come from, oh yeah, we love each other on the continent. And it's I would always laugh, and I would be in some of these TikToks and I'd be like, no, y'all don't even get along within your own countries. Your tribes don't even get along with each other, which is the truth. And it's even coming out that in Somalia, that's a huge thing. And I didn't know this, but the country of Somalia has 6 major tribes, or they call it clans, 6 major clans. And if you don't belong to those 6 major clans, you're pretty much ostracized. And if you come from a minority clan or tribe in Somalia, it's like you're barely a person. Now I just found out that there's a tribe in Somalia called the Somali Bantus. Now the Somali Bantus, they're so low on the totem pole, and they're being ostracized to such a degree that they can't even run for political office in Somalia. There can't be a Somali Bantu president or prime minister or head of state. There can't be a Somali Bantu member of parliament, because the Somali Bantus are looked down upon. They're a minority tribe, so the Somalians, all the other 6 major tribes, don't like them, and they bring that to America. There's even a girl who speaks about being a Somali Bantu and how it's how the other tribes don't like her, don't like them. They act like they don't exist. So I'm just I'm not shocked by it, because I know tribalism goes on, but it's very sad that it's still happening to such a degree, and then people bring it to America. But they want us to believe that they all like each other, they're all friends, but that's furthest from the truth. I mean, the Somali divide is Somali divide and division is so big that when the mayoral the election for mayor this past, I think it was earlier this month or October. No, I think it was November or earlier this month. There was the incumbent mayor, Jacob Frey. He was running against Omar Fate. And Omar Fate lost because Jacob Frey went to the other Somalian clans and was pandering to them. It was hey, if you vote for me, I'll do these things for your clan, but also I'll make sure that Omar Fate, who doesn't belong to your clan, loses. And they all voted for Jacob Frey, and he's a white man. He's pretty much an outsider. And they were yeah, we don't care, because our cultural issues that started in Somalia, we're going to bring them to America. And Jacob Frey don't care about the Somalians. I've seen all the videos of him trying to speak Arabic, him trying to speak Somali, trying to do their dances and trying to eat their food and trying to dap up some young Somalian boys or whatever. He don't care about them. He just want to get elected, and that's what and it served his purpose. Now he's been reelected. And I think it's just ridiculous how we are each other's worst enemies at times. Like, we will stab each other in the back so that we don't win. We will uplift another group over our own because we're from a different tribe. But then we always talk about how loving and how, how pious we are. We're Christians, we're Muslims. We love everyone. Yeah, we love everyone but ourselves. And, it's so sad. Even when Ilhan and Omar tried to come up, she didn't do anything. But speaking of her, I want her to leave office. I don't like her. I think she's just like many of these politicians. She's an opportunist. Like her, just her whole marriage thing is it's very shady. Like, first she was married to one guy, then she was married to another guy, and this other Somali guy who she's married to, they're saying the one that they're saying is her brother. Like, there are allegations that they were never actually really married, and also that he might be gay. I don't know if that's the truth, but then she ends up taking this white lady's husband from him, and now she's married to this white man who they're saying is being investigated for money laundering or some kind of IRS scam, or he owes money, like millions of dollars, to the IRS or something like that. I don't know, but she's a very shady character, and I don't like her. I don't think she's good for the Somalian community in Minnesota. I think, like many of these politicians, she's there just to make money. She's like, hey, what's an easy way to make money? And like, oh, go for run for politics, or run for political office, and that's what she's doing. But like I said, it's really sad the way we treat each other as Black people or as African people. But hopefully that changes. We'll see. But thank you for tuning in to another episode of I Speak African. Make sure to like, share, and subscribe. If you like today's episode, you guys can share your stories or some confessions that you might have with me, and I can be reached out at ispeakafrican12@gmail.com. And remember, full episodes are available on Spotify. Until next time, stay blessed.